3rd, 2000, I gave birth to our second son, Henry. He had this amazing full head of hair and eyelashes that most women would die for. They say that your second child is easier somehow. You're more prepared, more laid back. In any case, there were no red flags with Henry. He was a perfect baby. Right on track at 15 months, he started talking, and by 2, he was putting together simple sentences. He was even learning Spanish from his babysitter. I used to pick him up and put him in our lap and make him repeat words, and I would ask him to say mommy, and he would giggle and say mommy. And one day I picked him up to play our game, and he didn't respond. He didn't even look at me. His gaze was off into space. And I remember feeling so odd as I sat him down to make dinner, and we never played the game again. By 2 1/2, we knew something was wrong, and we brought him to our pediatrician, but back then, doctors were very hesitant to diagnose autism. So instead, he blamed Henry's challenges on our parenting and suggested we seek family therapy. Now, what did we know? Maybe it was us. So I made the appointment, and we had a 3-month wait, and so I started going online, on dial-up, mind you, searching to get answers, and I typed in no eye contact and a toddler, and autism was the answer. Before we could even see the therapist, Henry's daycare called us, and I vividly remember the director telling us her concerns about Henry. No eye contact, he wasn't engaged with the other children, he wasn't speaking, he was repeatedly banging his head. And I asked her, do you think it's autism? And she said, I can't diagnose him, but you need to go back to your doctor and you need to tell him that that's your concern. Well, that appointment led to an afternoon in the ER and a psych evaluation, and we walked out with this little piece of paper that said possible autism and a stack of brochures. You have to understand that back then, Autism Speaks did not exist, and families today facing that diagnosis can access the first 100-day kit, which gives them step-by-step instructions, how to get services, how to advocate for your kid, where to go. But back in 2003, we were on our own, and it was a really lonely and scary place to be. I knew that early intervention was important, and we were able to get Henry services until he started school. But once he turned 3, the school district took him over. There were no laws in Illinois to make insurance pay for his services, which meant that nothing he needed was paid for. His doctor wanted him to have speech and occupational and behavioral therapies as well as meds. We were told, you do whatever you have to do. You sell your home, you take out loans, you move back in with your parents, whatever, and maybe Henry will find his voice again. After those exorbitant out-of-pocket expenses, they did yield results, and Henry did find his voice after 3 years of silence and tens of thousands of dollars. In 2006, I was offered a promotion to Indiana. Indiana was never a state we had considered living in, but they were the first state to pass autism insurance reform, and that meant for the first time Henry's services were covered. Since then, Autism Speaks has worked tirelessly advocating on both state and federal levels to pass autism insurance reforms, and I am thrilled that today 46 states, the District of Columbia, and the U.S. Virgin Islands have all passed autism insurance reforms. Our job led us to Boston and then back to Chicagoland, and we ended up in Naperville, and Henry was thriving. He had been mainstreamed, he was going to school with neurotypical peers, and we naively thought we had been through the worst. And then puberty hit our house like a brick flying through glass. You know, puberty is hard enough on a typical kid, but you throw in autism and sensory integration issues and chemical imbalances, and it was unbearable for Henry. His psychiatrist prescribed a cocktail of meds to try to level him out, and they worked for a while until the beginning of his sophomore year, and then the world fell apart. Henry's schedule wasn't set up the same as the year before. He didn't have lunch with his brother any longer, and his brother is his North Star. He had a series of significant meltdowns at school, which just further isolated him from his friends. And I'd never seen anxiety in anyone so high. And 2 weeks into it, Henry looked me in the eye and said, "I need to go to the ER." And I asked why, and he told me he wanted to end his life. He just wanted it to stop. So Henry spent about a week in an outpatient services for anxiety and depression, and based on their recommendation and to help Henry get through it, he had to be admitted inpatient for about 6 days. And this was devastating on many levels, but it also was the longest he'd ever been away from us in his entire life. And when he was discharged, we decided we needed to make some changes in his doctor and his therapist, and the first place I called was Autism Speaks. Because you see, when you're a member of the Autism Speaks family, everything isn't just online and impersonal. When I reached out to them, they responded just like family does. And I sent an email, and within hours I had a list of doctors and therapists for Henry. Several weeks later, his school called, and they had determined they needed to outplace him to a more supportive learning environment. And once again, I reached out to Autism Speaks, and there are people in this room today who helped me research every alternate school. Today, Henry is doing so much better, and he is laughing again, and he is trying to work to get to his home high school. And a year ago, he couldn't get through his day, and tonight I'm really excited because he's here to say a few words. So Autism Speaks has stood by this kid his entire life, and they've done it through advocacy, making sure our insurance will pay for his needs, and through family services, giving him the resources and tools that he needs to get through his day, and through research that has created individualized med management using his own genes to figure out what works for him, and through awareness so that no kid ever has to wait 3 months for a family therapist before reaching. Anyway, you want to speak? Okay.
Hello everyone, I am Henry Schlaack. I've been helped and supported throughout my life by Autism Speaks. When I was struggling in the past year, Autism Speaks called my mom, the people there, they called my mom every day to check in on how I was doing. When I was in the situation of having to look for another school, they helped me and my family find the right place for me. But why don't I just go a little off script? Well, throughout my life, I have had a lot of really amazing experiences, and honestly, I don't think I would be here if it wasn't for that early intervention or whatever. I mean, Mom did mention I couldn't talk when I was 3, and I was really an anxiety-filled wreck last year, but look at me now, I'm right in front of everyone. And I think Autism just speaks, I guess. Sorry if I sound a little rough. I mean, I'm a little sick.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
For kids like Henry and families like mine. So if all of a sudden you're thinking, what can I do right this minute? I want you to pull your cell phones out, because Jester has sent everyone here a text And if you open up that text, you can donate now to Autism Speaks. And I have to say that, again, whatever you can do means a lot to my family, to this world, to Illinois, and to kids like Hen. So I just want to say thank you. Reach deep tonight, because there is a lot of help needed. Because he's not through everything. He still needs to go to college and get a job and live on his own. So just thank you. And as soon as we're done here, I believe the casino is open. So thank you very much.